Hey everybody, welcome to our Roundtable Shorts, where we have an opportunity to go back and glean just some great information and some great wisdom from our past guests on the Roundtable. And our hope is that as we shorten these up and pick certain topics that we talked about in the Roundtable, that you could listen to them and be able to glean information from the people that were on, and be able to not only glean the information and the wisdom, but be able to be challenged by what they said. So Morgan Gardner was one of our guests, and she had two what I felt like was incredible perspectives. One was as a high school student trying to figure out community. You know, we live inside of a world today that community is possibly just done through a phone, or we're so busy that community is a difficult place to figure out or what to do with community. So she talks about how she found community and the things that she loves, which is being on our youth worship team here at Life Church. So she talks about that. And then she also talks about the challenge of what it's like to be a high schooler trying to live out her faith. And so I hope that as you listen to this and as you listen to her story, that you'll be able to see how Morgan found community, you know, in a way she had to look for it, but she went out and found community through things that she loves. And also what a challenge it is to be a high schooler trying to live out your faith and trying to bring your friends to Jesus.
Yeah. So when youth ended, we had nobody to play with. Play for.
Right. So
we just went up into the youth worship area and just talked for most of it. And that was really nice. It built our relationship with each other. We started to trust each other with our thoughts and feelings. And I would like to say they're all my friends now.
But I think that's something for us all to learn. Sometimes people think every time a church says community, it means you gotta get in a small group and study the Bible. It starts with relationships, you know, and it starts around things that people love to do together. If you can just find those things, fishing, hunting, playing music together, running clubs, whatever those things are. I mean, the big deal is be in a relationship, get to know people, and learn scripture, but then learn how to love each other.
Right.
Inside of that. So I think that part's cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the faith journey of a young person today, the challenges. Because part of what we have been talking about in the book of Revelation is to say, we're living in the last days. That was this week, you know. Say, okay, the last days is the time from Jesus till the second coming, but things have got a little bit worse, right, over time.
Yes.
If you look at 20 years ago, 15 years ago, we can attest to the challenges that a young person faces today. To be a believer is way different than it was when I was in high school. The challenges.
Even when I was.
Right, that's what I mean. And so I think it's interesting to hear Morgan's perspective on what is it like to try to be a believer in a big high school? What's it like to, you know, try to be somebody who, because again, one of the things I think is pretty cool about you is you're not shy about your faith, right? I mean, since I've known you, I mean, you've been very much this is who I am. This is what I believe. I'm excited about it. Nobody's going to push me away from that. So can you talk a little bit about the challenges, or maybe not even just challenges, or maybe successes that you have as being a young person trying to figure out how to live out faith?
Yeah.
So when I was in middle school, I'm sorry, Mom, for not telling you this. But,
You know what this sounds like?
What?
You ever see those videos, when I used to have social media and they go up and say, what's one secret
love
that nobody knows?
I love
just
Okay.
spilling all my secrets.
All right, Karen, you ready?
Brace
Here we
yourself.
go.
I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Dad.
Is it really that bad? Oh, I'm excited.
No, it won't be
Well.
bad. Okay, here we go.
So when I was in middle school, I was away from, I was still going to church, but I didn't have a relationship with God. I just didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with people that I should not have been hanging out with. It was terrible. I've done things that I shouldn't have. So, 8th grade year was a really big turning point for me. And one conversation I had was out, in the tennis courts, right after my partner had smacked me in the nose so hard that I thought I broke my nose. It was bleeding. I was crying, and it was awful. So my partner had taken me to the nurse, and we were walking down. And I don't know why. I was like, oh, please, Lord, make sure that I didn't break anything. And she's like, "You're a Christian?" I'm like, "Oh no."
Open the floodgates.
I'm like, "Oh no. Yes, I am. No, why?" Like, and she was like, "I have a question for you." And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not strong enough to do this." And we ended up having this really deep conversation about she had never like thought about religion. She
Wow.
just like not for me. But I had ended up having a conversation with her talking about like why I believe in what I believe in and what that means to me. And
Amazing.
I don't know what it did for her, but it did so much for me. It showed me that I do believe in this, and if I do believe in it, I should believe in it all the way and not just be lukewarm about it.
Woo, that's so good. I got goosebumps.
Well, and I think that's a good lesson. I mean,
Yes.
part of the lesson, like people who don't want to talk about their faith or share their testimony, part of the reason is what's the other person's response?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, you just made a perfect example of this
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sharing your story did something for you.
And you didn't even like mean to. It was totally
Yeah.
like a God thing. That's
Yeah.
how I see it.
I think God's very good at that in my life. Just
Yeah.
doing things without me noticing. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, that just happened.
Right.
Like so cool to recognize it. Yeah. I love those moments. We're
Yeah,
like,
so what do
oh
you
my
think
God.
what do you think is the greatest challenge facing young people today when it comes to being a believer, or honestly, maybe it's the both and, not only being a believer but staying on track, because I think that's one of the things we talked about this week is this idea of spiritual drift. Like you get on fire and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden you just like you look up and you're like, what the frick just happened?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I'm back to the way I was. You
Yeah.
know? And so maybe challenges of being a believer and how do you stay from not drifting away from those things?
So something I struggle with personally is getting distracted. My
Yes.
mind is going a million miles an hour all the time. And I have extracurriculars. I am focused on school all the time. So sometimes I focus on that. I worship that instead of God, which is, somebody has talked about it. You have talked about it, but like I never struggle with that a lot. So I think I've had a conversation with Cam as well, like how people stay focused on Jesus and how they stay focused on spreading the word. I think that's a really big challenge, at least for me. And another thing is just talking about it. Like it's hard to talk about things, especially in school,
Yes.
because it's
Yeah.
such a controversial. There's so many different
Judgment.
people in the same place, so it's hard to voice your opinion without backlash.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but in that, let's talk about the distraction part, because you probably live in the most distracted
Oh, yeah.
time of history right now. Like you could be distracted
Yeah.
by anything, and
And our age. I mean, that's the busiest time that high school is so busy.
well, but the crazy thing is busyness is celebrated,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like you want to give this answer. Like nobody wants to give the answer of, oh yeah, no, I don't have that much to do. Like every
Yeah.
time somebody
Right.
talks to you, what is your usual response? How's everything going? I am
Yeah.
I'm really busy. I
Right.
have a lot. Like it seems like it's celebrated. You know, it's not really celebrated with like, oh, I don't have much going on. Just been really focusing on my relationship with Jesus. I mean, think about if that was your answer.
That's about to be
Yeah.
mine.
You know
'cause
what
of
I
my
mean? But I'm
crutches.
just saying, if somebody came up to you,
It would-
we
yeah.
celebrate like, oh wow, you're so busy and you're so involved.
Right.
and
Yeah.
You're doing so much, and we're over here like, everybody's
Yeah.
cheering. Where in the culture that she lives in, I
Right.
think that's what's celebrated compared to, I'm taking some time, I'm stepping back. I don't have to be so busy, or if I am, it's with things that matter for eternity.
Yeah.
Morgan's story is such an inspirational story for a couple different reasons. To find a young person who is committed to Jesus and committed to bringing your friends to Christ is just one that we would love to keep talking about and love to keep celebrating. And in Morgan's story, I think what you saw is that there's this challenge in the world today to find community. And sometimes, community, as she talked about, people talk about, well, it's got to be a small group or it's got to be done a certain way. And Morgan just shares is to find the things you love, get together with the people that you love around a common interest and share that community together, because deep relationships, like Morgan talks about, is what's going to give you the opportunity to share Jesus. And so we just want to challenge you. If you're a high school student, middle school student, or a young person out there and you're finding it like her challenging to live out your faith, start with getting in relationship with people. Start with finding an affinity group, whether it's fishing, hunting, running, whether it's music, whatever those things are. Get in relationships with people, do life with people, and then just pray that God gives you the opportunity to share your faith and to be able to share the love of Christ with the people that you love.